Franchise Secrets, Eric Von Horn.
If you're not a part of the Franchise Secrets Facebook group, what are you waiting for? It's franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. I cannot believe how valuable this group turned out to be. When someone asks a question, the feedback is honest, authentic, very helpful, and it's from multiple perspectives. If you're not sure that you're getting the most accurate information about franchising, then check out the largest, most helpful Facebook group in all of franchising. Whether you're a Z, a ZOR, a buyer, or investor, join our free Facebook group at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. Welcome to the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Eric Van Horn here. Today is a solo episode. We are going to be talking about selling franchises. And I can just hear some people squirm when they hear that because franchisors love to say, we're not selling franchises, we're awarding franchises. And then I talk to franchisors behind closed doors and they're like, we're absolutely selling franchises. But I know what they mean by awarding franchises. A lot of the best brands out there aren't just selling, they are selecting, awarding franchises to really good franchisees. But it's a sales process, and we're going to be talking about that today from the franchisor's perspective, but that will be really good for franchise buyers and franchisees who are going to be buying a second or third brand or maybe negotiating for another territory or 2 or 3 from an expansion standpoint. So I always think it's really good to understand things from the other side's perspective, whether you're in a business partnership or you're in a franchisee, franchisor, franchise vendor, franchisor relationship. When you understand the other side's process and their mindset and what they're going through, it helps you go through that in a better way. And that's why there's books out there about the franchisee, franchisor relationship. And that's why so many emerging franchisors have a difficult time as they start out with franchisees, understanding the franchisee's mindset and even understanding their own mindset as a franchisor. But today, let's hop into it. We're going to be talking about the whole franchise development process from a franchisor's perspective. And by the way, if you enjoy this and you're a franchisor that's wanting to get better at your own franchise development process, go to franchisesecrets.com/franchise development training, because I did 90 minutes with a PowerPoint on this exact thing. And during that presentation, I just scratched the surface on the franchise development training. And today I'm just going to give you a taste of that. But I think it's going to be very helpful for everyone. So again, if you're a franchisor, you're going to love this, or you're thinking about getting into franchising, you're going to love this as well. So this is going to be followed up with another one about the franchise buying process from the franchisee's perspective. So we're going to be talking about the selling process. And then the next episode, I'll be talking about the buying process. I'm going to go over the same stuff, but 2 different perspectives. So again, if you want more information on the franchise development training, just go to franchisesecrets.com/franchise development training. But let's hop into it. I'm going to talk about the team. So if you are a franchisor, a lot of times what happens is you need to develop a team, and you don't have a team to sell franchises right away. So you are typically the founder that is selling franchises. And there is a very efficient way and non-efficient way to do this, because as a founder, you have so many other things to be thinking about, worrying about, versus just selling franchises. But franchise sales is really how all franchises become great franchises. So you probably need to be selling right away. And I help franchisors who are selling, I help them understand how to do that in an efficient way. But if you're selling, it's okay. And you just need to know you need to get yourself out of selling. And typically it's around, once you have 10 franchisees, then maybe it's time to start removing yourself from that process. You'll always be involved with the process, but you are not going to be the franchise development team. Start developing the team. So as you go from that shoestring budget to a bigger budget, you have the opportunity to bring in new, inexperienced franchise development reps or bring in experienced franchise development reps. And there's a massive difference between the two. It's not easy to help teach somebody, especially if you don't have a lot of experience, teaching them how to sell franchises, even though they may have a lot of sales experience and they may even have experience selling high ticket items, because that's what this is. This is a high ticket sales process because you're selling something that's worth a lot of money, and it's a 6 to 8 week process. So it's a high ticket 6 to 8 week sales process. So you also have the opportunity to bring in experienced development reps. Now, with experience, they might have experience doing it a couple times for a couple different brands, and they may be good and they may not be good. There's a lot of things to consider with that, but if you bring in a really good experienced franchise development rep, you're going to be paying a lot of money for them, but they're worth it. If you are at the point where you're ready to scale and sell a bunch of franchises that year. So what I would suggest, start out selling franchises yourself, then bring in an experienced franchise development rep, let them start to sell for you. You work with them. And then you just work your way up to having multiple reps and a team. There's also other ways to do it. You can have a part-time or seasonal or a fractional franchise development person where they are helping you, but they're also helping other brands. I really like this option. They're hard to find. I know who they are, but they're hard to find because they're selling for somebody and they are looking for other brands to represent, but there's very few of them out there. Actually, in my mastermind, I have a new mastermind for franchisors, and I'm going to make some of those available to those that are in that mastermind. So if you are a franchisor, you are thinking, I want to level up, I want to be around other emerging brands, I want to be around experts that have done what you haven't done in franchising before, then check out the new mastermind that I'm starting. Go to franchisesecrets.com/ZOR. ZOR, because you're now a franchisor. So franchisesecrets.com/ZOR. So I like the part-time, the fractional development rep because they really only make money when they're selling franchises. And then finally, you've got the franchise sales organizations out there, and they, when you're ready to grow really fast and you don't want to do it in-house, that's when you bring on the franchise development or franchise sales organization, and they can just blow up a brand in a good way or in a bad way if you're not ready to scale like that. Here's some of the things that I see a lot of new emerging brands get wrong when they are starting to sell franchises. So by the way, again, I'm going to go over all this in a new podcast from the franchisee's perspective or the franchise buyer's perspective. So everything I'm talking about now is from the franchisor's perspective. So we'll go over that from a buyer standpoint. What does that matter to you if you're dealing with the CEO or the founder versus a franchise sales organization? It's different. It's a different mindset as a franchisee going, or a new buyer, possible franchisee working with the founder versus working with a franchise sales organization. But let's get back to the topic for this podcast. And you want to be able to stack the deck in your favor as a franchisor. And a lot of franchisors get it wrong from an emerging brand standpoint just because they've never done it before. Anytime you do new things, it's difficult to be really, really good at it. It's also difficult to be really confident in the thing that you're doing because you've never done that thing before. And that thing is selling franchises, awarding franchises. And it's also finding good franchisees. So most people that have never done this before are not very confident in the process. Let me just say this. It's a 6 to 8 week sales process. By the end of that time, you as a franchisor should be very confident that you've given them everything that they need to know and understand to be able to make a decision to either buy or not buy. And if they're not able to make a decision, there's two things that will be the issue. One, you didn't do a very good job of giving them the information, or they're just not a buyer. They can't make decisions and they're never going to buy anything. And if that's the case, the last thing that you want them to do is actually buy your franchise because they're not really good at making decisions. But for you to be confident in that, you need to know that you have a very good, solid, robust franchise development process that you take them through. And then here's the other thing. you need to know buyer's behavior. It's everyone that goes through a process will say that they're a buyer, that say they're ready to buy, but most people really are not ready to buy. So whenever I'm dealing on, I'm helping advise my private clients who are wanting my help with them understanding franchise development and kind of doing a done with you service that I do for my private clients, I help them understand buyer behavior, because talk is cheap, but most franchise development people are just listening to what people are saying, and they believe what people are saying. I really don't believe what people say. I watch what people do. And that's why you need to have certain things in your process for people to do. And if they do those things, you know that they might be a buyer. You also know if they are doing the things that they say they're going to do, that you want them to do, that you've laid out in a system for them to do, then likely they're going to do the same thing as an owner as they did during the franchise development buying process. The thing that you need to do is set the expectation on the first call of what they're actually supposed to be doing. So it's a 6 to 8 week sales process. There's a lot of things that you do on that first call, but you need to tell them it's a 6 to 8 week sales process. And buyers out there, I'm going to be going over this with you on this next podcast. I'm trying to restrain myself from getting into the buyer's perspective on this right now. There's so much to do with how you stack the deck. I've got a couple slides on this. I'm going to zip right past that and get right into the franchise development process. But I do need to say one thing. Stacking the deck in your favor on the franchise development process, you need to have the right partners. And one of the partners that you absolutely need to have are lenders. Think about it this way. If you are a car dealer and you have 100 people come into 100 buyers are ready to buy a car, come into your car dealership, and they are ready to buy a car, and they get to the very end of the process and they need to finance that car. And they're like, well, I'm going to go find a banker to help me with this. Or you can just say, hey, we talked about this from the first call. What are you qualified for? We have our in-house finance team, and they're going to get you all set up with that. That's what car dealers do. And as a franchisor, you need to be able to help your franchisees do the same. Because if you get to the end of the process and they say, I need to find the money somehow, and then they go talk to their local bank, and their local banker's like, I don't really like franchises, or I don't like that model, or I don't really know anything about it. I need to get educated on it. Well, you've just delayed a closing at the best. At the worst, you just had a good buyer not buy because it was destroyed by a lender that doesn't know your brand. Now, the best case scenario is you have a relationship or 2 or 3 with different lenders that know franchising, and they get introduced to the candidates looking at your franchise early on in the process, and they will pre-qualify them. They know what they're qualified for. They're going through that process, and when it comes time to buy your franchise, there's no hiccups. Well, the truth of it is there will usually be some hiccups with lending because that's just the way lending works. But now you have a vendor, a partner that's helping your new franchise partner get their lending in order. And the reason that I like some of these different ones, there's Guidant Financial, there's Fran Fund, there's Benetrends. There's so many good ones out there. They know franchising. And if they know your brand, they've already vetted it out, and they know lenders that like your brand, and they can help with that. So when I talk about the right partners, that's just one of several partners that you should have to be able to stack the deck in your favor. Because if you don't have this, the person next to you that is wanting to sell them a franchise, that's your competitor, probably has a process like that, and you just missed out. All right, so let's get into the franchise development process. I'm giving you a guide here. This is just a guide. You're going to tweak it and change it based on your team, your brand, the industry that you're in, so many different things that you will use this as a guide, and then it will be customized. This is one of the things that I help my private clients with. We'll get into a little bit in the franchise or mastermind, but it's the customizing of this that will make your process just amazing or weak. But a lot of people don't even have a basic process to start from. So that's my goal, is to give you a generic process that should be extremely customized based on your unique brand, your team, and what you're really good at. One, have a call setter. They set up the intro call. Then you have the intro call. That's call number one. And then you have some type of operations or marketing call. That might be recorded. What might come before that is a unit economics call. So we'll get into that. Then you have team validation. And there's reasons that I like team validation. This might be with your CEO, the founder, the COO, the chief marketing officer. This might be live or recorded or both. And then you have franchisee validation. And I've got a list of 100 questions that are out there. So go to franchisesecrets.com and there'll be somewhere on there where you can find those 100 questions to help your franchisees, your buyers validate. Then you got discovery day or confirmation day. There's so many different ways to say it. Preparation for that. And then you've got the actual day, the discovery day or the confirmation day, whether it's virtual or in person. It's important to have that. And then you have a closing, and you have a closing date and a closing process. And that's important as well. So I'll go through each of these briefly. You've got the call setter. And I think it's important to have a call setter. One, if you're the call setter, you probably don't, if you are the founder or the main person selling franchises and you don't have a call setter, one of a couple of things is happening. You don't have many leads coming in at all. And if they are coming in, you don't have you're probably doing other things. So these leads are not getting called right away. Franchise leads, just like any other lead, just like you would want your franchisees to follow up on leads, you need to follow up on them right away. There's some services out there like Client Tether that lead comes in, they will call you, like the CRM will call you and say, "Are you ready to talk to this new lead?" And you click one, and then you are bridged in, and that they start calling that lead. So you are insured to make sure that this lead is called right away. A call setter, they shouldn't be there to answer questions. A call setter is like a secretary. They have one job. This call setter has one job. Two jobs: pre-qualify and to get them set up on a call. So that's their main thing, is to pre-qualify and to set them up on a call. And there's a number of different things to pre-qualify. Just real quick, I'm not going to get into this too much. There's a number of things. I'll just give you a couple. Liquidity. You need to get their liquidity, because if you have a brand and let's say it's $50,000 liquid, then they should be asking that right away. And there's another number of other things that you need to ask. There's really like 4 things. One of the other things that I really like asking is timing. How soon are you ready to buy? How soon are you ready to buy? Everyone is going to have a different answer to this, but they don't know what your expectations are. My expectations when I'm working with my private clients or talking to franchisors, it's 6 to 8 weeks. If they say 3 to 4 months, then ask why. You don't say, "Sorry, you can't. We're not working together." Ask why, because it might be that's when they're selling a house. It might mean that's when their job is done. And if that's when their job is over, they can still buy it before. In their mind, they're thinking I'm not ready to open for 4 months or open for 6 months. And if you're in a retail concept where they have to find a location, a lot of times they're not going to be ready to buy for are ready to open for 9 months. So they might be thinking, "I'm not ready to buy or start for 9 months," when in reality, they need to buy the franchise first. And that's when they get going. So there's a handful of questions that call setter asks to pre-qualify them. And then they set up that introductory call. Now, what could happen is they could send out a 5 to 30-minute video before this call that answers the most common questions that you typically get on a first call. And this is what I coach my private clients to do. if you take a bunch of calls. First of all, anybody in franchise development should be taking a bunch of calls. They should have, when I was doing franchise development early on, I was dialing out 100 times a day, calling out 100 times a day. And then as I would get into a new brand and I was developing the franchise development process for them, I was in the weeds doing it. And so I remember for a month straight, I was on the phone all the time because I wanted to understand every question that was getting answered. Then I could put together a process to take people through to get those questions answered. So at the very least, what you need to do is listen to that first call, find out what their questions are, put those in a video, and then let them listen to that beforehand. And this is the reason why. Whether it's a 5-minute video, a 2-minute video, or a 30-minute video, this is the reason why. The call setter says, please listen to this before you get on the call, because once you get on this call with so-and-so, they want to make sure that you've listened to this so they can really be prepared to answer any of the questions that you have about that. So the point of it is not what you're looking for is for them to get this information in where they can sit down and listen to it. You want to know that they actually did what they were supposed to do. If they continue to not listen to things before they get on the call with you, that's probably a pretty good indication of the type of franchisee they're going to be. Or if they say, I'm ready to buy, I'm ready to buy, I'm ready to buy, yet they're not listening to these things, are they really ready to buy? It tells me they're not really a buyer. Or 9 times out of 10, they're not a buyer. And then here's the other thing that this is another reason why you want to do this, because you want to build rapport with the franchise buyer. You just don't want to regurgitate information all the time. And at least I used to get really tired of saying the same thing, 30 minutes of the same thing 10 times a day to people. And I'll tell you what, there is one of those 10 calls that I crushed it. I gave great information. I was high energy. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then there was one of them that I was low energy, stumbling, I know that I was a level 3 of 10, and there was one that I was a 10 of 10. Why don't you just record those when you're at your best? Give that to candidates. They listen to it, they watch it, and they can really be ready to hop into that first call, engaged. And that's what you want. You want them to walk in engaged. And there's more things that we considered that you should be considering in that first introductory call. And I talked about that on that franchise development training. So next call. It's either going to be operations and marketing or unit economics. So it could be one or the other, and it just really depends. If you have a weaker item 19 or no item 19, you might want to wait to hold the economics or basically the financial opportunity for the third call versus the second call. If you have an amazing item 19, which I'm a believer in doing as much as you can in the item 19 to give candidates and buyers as much information as they can get, then put that up front. But let's say you don't have an amazing item 19, you don't have much to show for that, then do an operations and marketing call. This could be you doing it. This could be a live call that's done once a week, recorded. So maybe you have your ops person on for 30 minutes and your marketing person on for 30 minutes. And it's a live call and people are on there listening to a presentation, having some Q&A. You can record that and give that to people to engage with after that call too. So maybe they have 5 different recordings that they can listen to. This is what I like about that. Again, if people listen to all 5 recordings, you know that you've got someone that's extremely bored with nothing to do, or they're extremely interested and they want to keep diving deeper into your brand. So I like to watch buyer behavior, again, not what people say. So there's a number of things that you want to do within those two, within the ops and the marketing. Again, check out that training that I did on that. Unit economics. Franchisors, you need to listen to your legal advice that you get from your legal counsel on this. You need to follow the item 7 and the item 19 and not stray from it. So there's things that can get you in trouble here, and there's things that you can do very legally. So my suggestion is do what you can to be able to communicate the item 7 and item 19 to these candidates so they can start to put together the pieces of the puzzle to come up with their own pro forma, their own budget and whatnot, to be able to make a really good, educated decision on the franchise opportunity that you have for them. But this, again, you need to talk to your attorney. They will let you know what you can and cannot do. Sometimes the things that you think you can do are the things that you can't do, and the things that you can't do are the things that you want to do but really shouldn't be doing. So after this unit economics call, this is when typically you send out that franchise disclosure document. And again, by the way, in the training I went over this a little in more detail, but a lot of people that know franchising are going to want that item 19 and see the item 19 and ask for that franchise disclosure document on that first call. They might even ask the call setter for it. If that's the case, someone, that they have experience doing that and investigating franchises before. So number one, if they ask that, ask what documents they've looked at, why they like looking at those documents, what are the most important things that they found, so you know what you're dealing with. And then you let them know you're going to get it after the second call or after the third call, because that's your process. And you're confident in that process because you're my private client, or you've had a coach that's helped you along the way, or you've just done it for so long that you know that that's the way that it goes. Again, you will get so much pushback from people, but you've got to stick to your guns, and you have a process that you take people through, and stick to it. Make them stick to it. All right. So after that is when I like to do team validation. Team validation. And what this is, so this might be after your second call or after your third call. And again, there's so many different ways to do this. It depends how great your team is. If you have an amazing team, do this after your second call. You might want to have a CEO call. It's a live Zoom call that's recorded. Your CEO will present, or your COO or your CMO will present, or maybe your training department will present. Somebody will present, and then it's recorded, and then that gets left up so they can continue to engage in the content, the information that team member is giving. So one week your CEO is doing it, the next week your COO, and then your CMO, and then the founder, and then a trainer, or somebody is doing something once a week. So you've got candidates engaging in really good content from your team. And now they can, if they're tire kickers involved in your process, they'll never watch any of this stuff. They'll tell you how they're a buyer and how great they are and how much they love your concept. But if they're not doing these things, then they will happily get on a call and waste your time, but they won't get on a validation call like that. And so just make sure you're watching buyer behavior. There's so many things that go through this. So if you have a bigger team, there's different ways to do it. But again, you want to highlight the best of your team. And I always love to have Q&A on that, on those as well, because different franchisees have different questions. And again, you just stack this wherever you need it. Maybe this is stacked on your second call. You have an amazing founder or an amazing CEO, and they're able to deliver information or brand overview that nobody else will. So maybe you have that as a once a week standing ops call or marketing call or whatever it is. So again, I hope I'm giving you a framework, but within that framework, there's so many different ways that you can go. All right. Now, this is what you said in the very beginning. It's a 6 to 8 week process. Now that you're 3 to 4 weeks in, it's time to look at discovery day or meet the team day. And here's the thing. Back in my day, it was always called a discovery day. And then somewhere along the line, it was called meet the team day. And then it got changed to confirmation day. And I know a lot of the old school franchise development people are now calling it confirmation day. So, and I like that the best. I personally like confirmation day the best, but you'll still catch me saying discovery day just because it's a habit. I'm trying to break it. So you will want them to get prepared for that. So whether it's doing it virtually or in person, there's a process that they go through. And again, I like confirmation day because they're not discovering anything new. And I would tell people this: you're not going to discover anything new because we're getting everything that you need to make a decision before discovery day or before confirmation day. So you're not going to discover anything. You're going to confirm everything. And then you just there's so many things that you do to set the expectation. I'll just hit one or two of them. Within a week after discovery day, it's decision time. And it might be a verbal confirmation at discovery day. It might be a verbal confirmation a couple days after confirmation day, but you're going to want to get a verbal from them. And again, I want to start talking to you buyers out there, but I'll do this on the next podcast. So you want to get a verbal from them. It doesn't mean that it's a done deal, but you want a verbal. And then you want to close within a week because you want to see if people can make a decision. You've given them everything that they need to know. You as a franchisor are making a decision. Either they're in or they're out. And guys, I tell you what, I've seen it firsthand many times. People are not getting approved because they did something stupid at discovery day, or they are just not the right fit, and it became clear. I've seen it. And once you do it, it's going to empower you when you don't approve somebody, because you're like, yes, I didn't approve them. And now I know that I'm willing to say no to a franchisee because they weren't the right fit. And it's empowering from that standpoint. And really, you're doing the best thing for them. But there's a list of things that you need to do before that before that confirmation day actually takes place, so that they are prepared to be able to make a decision. And this is where new emerging brands and existing brands get it wrong. They don't have a very good process to get to that point. So when the candidate squirms, they're like, I think I'm ready, but I need to understand this. I think I'm ready, but I need to do this. Well, if you've done your job, taking them through a really good process, they have that information, or they don't need it. It doesn't matter. So that's where confidence in the process comes in, because they will squirm. How do I know? Because I squirm. Whenever I'm buying a new brand, I squirm. How do I know? I've been, as a franchisor, I've seen it, and I've seen people squirm. I've seen the people that I didn't think would squirm at that point actually squirm. So you need to get a verbal yes, and then a process to be able to follow up right after that. So this is at discovery day. Just a couple quick things on discovery day. And guys, discovery day, I could spend a whole day coaching, teaching, dissecting, helping you put together the right discovery day, and then continually tweaking it after you do your first one, your second one, your third one, because this is so important, and there's so many different ways to do it. There's many different ways to do it. There's a few ways to do it right, but there's so many things. The nuances of that day make a really big difference. But here's a couple little tips. Do something the evening before that's not just presentations. If you just jump straight into presentations, people are going to think they're getting sold, because you just naturally know that you're going into presentation mode and you're getting sold. And so that's going to be the mindset, and they unconsciously think that. If you break bread beforehand, you're having dinner, you're having drinks, you're enjoying, you're getting to know them on a different level, that's when the guards naturally come down, because you're not selling them something, you're getting to know them. Tell me more about your family. It's that type of stuff. And so people don't think they're getting sold when you're talking about family, and you're just getting to know their goals and their dreams and their desires and their background, because you're not selling them. You're getting to know them. So break bread, because the next day, there's presentations, there's a question and answer. That is when you are putting your best foot forward as a franchisor and making sure that they are confirming everything that they thought through the buying and the selling process. So I like to show them things, not just tell them things at Discovery Day. So if there's certain things that you could show them, then show it to them, and versus just telling it to them. And then again, after Discovery Day, like right after Discovery Day, have a, hey, are you in or are you out meeting? As a franchisor, say, you know what, you're not approved, or we don't think, you just be honest with them, and ask them to be honest with you. knowing what you know now, are you ready to move forward? Because if you are, we'll set up a signing call and we'll get things moving along. And it's just a verbal yes. We know that there's going to be things that you need to get done off a checklist, but let's make a checklist of the things that you need to get done. It's a verbal yes. Let's move forward. You start to get those things knocked out. Within a week, they are a new franchisee. You are their franchisor. That's a partnership that's formed, and you're off to the races. Where people get it wrong is they're not confident in their process. After Discovery Day, it's a disaster because they don't really know how to close, and because buyers don't know how to buy. It's just the way that it is. So if a good franchisor, you'll have that verbal yes. You'll use that to prepare for an official closing. I would suggest having an official closing call, a welcome on board call. That way everything is absolutely crystal clear. So that really is the franchise development process, high level, brief overview. But hopefully that helps some of you out there, because there's just a lot of bad habits, wrong ways that people are going, that young, emerging, and existing franchisors are doing things when they could be doing things a lot better. So use this as a framework. If you want my help with it, then just reach out to me at Eric, ERIK, at franchisesecrets.com, and just say, hey, Eric, I'm interested in some coaching, being a private client. If you're interested in the franchisor mastermind, check out franchisesecrets.com/Zor. Thank you everyone for listening. I think you're really going to enjoy this next one coming up that is going to be a buyer's perspective of everything that I just outlined today from the franchisor's perspective.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.